So today we are talking about the next in the Disney Canon series that I've been doing, and we are looking at one of their more interesting choices that they ever did. We're going to look at Hunchback of Notre Dame, and this is a really interesting movie because if I were to ask my friends in real life if they liked the movie, I think most of them would say no, they don't like it. But if I were to ask my friends online, some of the more ardent Disney fans, they would love it. And so there's a real sort of divide, I think, on this one. And I have to say, in this case, I'm on the side of the friends in real life. I don't think that this movie really works. And I think that people that are hardcore Disney fans are tired of being told that they like things that are for children. And so I think that Hunchback of Notre Dame is one that they can say, oh, look, this isn't a Disney movie made for children, which I dispute actually, but they can say, and look, this is something that's adult, this is something that's mature. And so I think that they're willing to ignore a lot of problems because it makes them feel good that there is this adult Disney film. There are some things that I admire about this movie. Of course, it's based on the Victor Hugo novel, but it was particularly, I guess, inspired by this group of comic books that were popular at the time that were based on classic literature. I think if there was ever a time that they could get away with something like that, it was probably this time, because they had so much goodwill from Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, Lion King, that they could take a risk like this. But my problem is they didn't take the risk. They didn't take the risk all the way. It was going to be me. What I wish I could get the R-rated cut of this movie. I wish I could get the attempt to not appeal to children at all, and to just make a dark and brooding and truly violent film that would be tonally kind of consistent and would be a true satisfactory depiction of the novel. And instead they kind of wimped out and decided to make the movie for children as well, and that's where it really has problems. And people will debate me and say, oh no, it was made for adults, it wasn't made for children. I disagree. You look at the marketing, you look at the various products and promotional things, this was made for children.
Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame is in theaters. Will today be the day? Be ready to fly. And it looks like everybody's getting into the act with the puppets from Burger King.
Don't thank me, thank Quasimodo.
And if you look at the movie itself, there's definitely a lot of moments where they pulled back, and this is not a Pan's Labyrinth that is unabashedly made for adults. And I think that the movie would have been so much better if they had just gone all the way instead of pulling back. I admire the attempt that they tried to do something different. I do admire that. I just don't think it was successful. And other things I admire, I do think that the cityscapes, as far as seeing Paris and everything, are beautiful. I think that some of the stained glass and some of the scenes in Notre Dame are really well animated. I really do like the animation in the Hellfire scene. I think that's very cool. And I think that the score is very good. I do like the vocal performances for the most part. I think that Tom Holtz gives it his all. I think that Kevin Kline is kind of wasted and sort of miscast as Phoebus. I think that, I don't know, like, he's a comedic actor, and there are some comedic moments to the part, but I don't know. Demi Moore, she's okay. She's fine. But I do like Tony Jay as Frollo. I think he does very good vocal work. And I actually think that the Gargoyles are well cast as far as their vocal performances, and I don't fault them for any of the problems with their characters. Now let's talk about some of the negatives. Let's start with the very, very beginning. Frollo kills Quasimodo's mother right on the steps of the church, the cathedral, right in the presence of the archdeacon, and he is just about to drown Quasimodo in the well. And this is where the movie has problems. It just doesn't go all the way. It doesn't because they weren't willing to offend the Catholic Church. So they changed the story from the novel. And the novel, he is the archdeacon, so it makes so much more sense why Frollo would have Quasimodo and why he would get away with this. It makes no sense for the archdeacon to have seen this, to see a woman dead and a baby about to get thrown into a well, and for that archdeacon to say, not only are we going to take the baby from you, you crazy person, but you have to now become basically the father of this baby. Like, that's ridiculous. That to me makes they didn't want to offend, so they weren't willing to go all the way, and instead I think they end up making the church look way worse. That they're allowing this madman to raise a child. It's one thing to have a wicked member of your clergy that's deceitful and hiding it from everybody, but that's one thing, as it is in the novel. But it's another thing that the church is an enabler of this kind of activity, an enabler of this kind of man. That's crazy. But it just starts you on this just unpleasant start to this movie where Frollo he's just killed a woman, and he's gonna dump a baby down a well. And I don't know, a lot of people love Frollo. I don't think he's that great of a villain, because you never see any kind of growth as a character at all. The things that is great about Gaston is that he starts out as this kind of pompous everyday hero, and by the end he is this madman. From the very beginning, Frollo is a madman. And by the end, he's basically the same guy. Like, I don't see anything that's that different in his behavior through the course of the story. He doesn't really have any kind of arc. He's within the story. So I think he's kind of overrated, but I do think the vocal performance is pretty good. So then you get to the main part of the story where you have Quasimodo. He's totally manipulated by Frollo, but he has these gargoyles who are kind of encouraging him to go out there and everything like that. And here we get another problem with the story, is that the movie can't, I think, quite decide on who is the antagonist and who is the protagonist. Because Quasimodo should be the protagonist, but repeatedly throughout the film, different people and groups are sort of put over him as the protagonist. There are times when Esmeralda, it seems like the movie is more about her. There's times when it's about Phoebus. There's times when it's about the gypsies. And then we get back to Quasimodo and it's his story. And there's long sections where he's not even in the film, where you are really feeling like it's more Esmeralda's movie. It starts out with him going out to the Festival of Fools. And this is where I feel like, again, it can't quite decide who the antagonist is either. Obviously, Frollo is the main antagonist, but the gypsies are kind of an antagonist too. Sometimes they're painted as these persecuted people who are sort of the protagonists and that we should feel sorry for. But then they're so cruel to Quasimodo. I mean, they're tying him down, throwing things at him, just awful. I mean, it's hard for me to feel any kind of sorry for this persecuted group. And then later on in the Court of Miracles, they're going to hang Esmeralda and Phoebus and Quasimodo. That kind of puts them, it's hard to not feel like people that are going to hang our heroes are antagonists within the film. And then you get like the second level antagonist is Frollo, who kind of comes in and out, and it makes it feel kind of uneven, and doesn't really work, I don't think, as far as the story. And the book is not that way at all. The book is much more about religion and about the attempt by this archdeacon to manipulate and control another person. And you do get some of that, but I think a lot of that is sort of lost. And you get moments that just feel so brutal, like when Frollo burns down half of Paris in order to find Esmeralda, and he tells Phoebus to burn the people that are in this house that have nothing to do with any of them at all. And it actually gets on fire, and Phoebus jumps through the window and saves the people. But that's a horrific image of a family basically being burned alive for nothing. They have done nothing, and we haven't spent any time with these people, and we haven't spent that much time with Frollo. And we certainly haven't spent enough time with Phoebus for him to be the protagonist, which he is in that scene. And so it just comes across as shocking without really being, I think, compelling, in my opinion. And you get his song Hellfire with Frollo's song. And I find this song to be beautifully animated, and it is bold, but it's not satisfactory to me because seeing Esmeralda dance, and that inspires him or whatever, or that tantalizes him to see her dance. But in that same scene, we see Phoebus being tantalized also by Esmeralda's dance, and he says, "Oh, what a woman." And yet he's the hero, and Frollo is also tantalized, and he's bad. Of course, he wants to do bad things to Esmeralda, but I just still find that sort of strange. That song, Hellfire, he sings about his lust, and the problem is that he's basically saying, if I can't have her, nobody will. So what does he mean when he says, have her? He means that he wants to have sex with her. I don't know how that can be any kind of doubt, and that's what the whole song is about. And so he's talking about raping and murdering this woman who danced before him. And again, if they went all the way, I could, I guess, find that compelling, but because they don't, and it just becomes kind of garish and brutal and unsettling. And
let her taste the fires of hell, or else let her be mine and mine alone. Hellfire, dark fire, now gypsy, it's your turn. Choose me or your pyre, be mine or you will burn.
when I first saw this movie, I watched it at a friend's house with her nephews, and I just remember watching it and just being in shock. I could not believe that Disney would put out this kind of thing. And, you know, maybe that's my fault for not having researched it more in advance, but I don't know, you just don't have that kind of a message about the treatment of a female character in your Disney film unless you are going to really justify that that's there with the character development, and I don't think that they do. And there's a nice song with God Help the Outcasts, I think, but again, because we have this sort of fractured storytelling where we have we don't have a completely developed character with Esmeralda, it's not as moving as it was if the movie was about her. Same thing with Out There. We would have, if the movie was really about Quasimodo, then we would feel more investment in that song. Yeah, that's the problem, is they have these brutal moments, but then they cut away to scenes of silliness, scenes with the gargoyles, and scenes with other characters, and so we're not able to really, we're just shocked, but we're not able to be fully invested in that character that's just done this shocking thing, if that makes sense. And I actually think that in a way that the gargoyles are juvenile and that they don't fit. They stick out like a sore thumb in this movie. But I actually think in a way they end up being kind of mean to Quasimodo because they pump him up to do all of these things and he ends up getting hurt kind of every time. And particularly the worst moment, I guess, of this is when he is feeling sad about Esmeralda and they sing A Guy Like You.
She wants you so any moment she'll walk through that door. A guy so swell, a guy like you, with all you bring at her. A fool can tell it's why she fell for you now.
I I don't know. And then you also get towards the end, it gets kind of loses control in the narrative with this battle sequence where they're all the gypsies and all the townspeople are all fighting, but I'm not sure exactly who they are fighting. Are they with Frollo? Are they not with Frollo? What's going on? It's very muddled, and you get this weird scene where there's all of this molten ore that's being thrown down from the cathedral. Where did they get the ore? Where is that melting coming from? What is going on with that weird scene? I don't understand that. And you get the final death of Frollo, and it would feel, I think, satisfying if I think he had more of a character arc and if I had been more involved in the story. So, I don't know, I just feel like they took this, they had the chance to do a story for adults, but they wimped out and they added those childish elements. There's that final battle scene, there's a lot of Home Alone kind of elements with characters getting hit in the face or in the groin or things like that, you know, that again take away from this dark moment that it's supposed to be. And so I don't think in the end it's very successful. I get it, I guess, why other people would be willing to ignore a lot of these flaws because of the risks that they took. So there you go. I give Hunchback of Notre Dame a C-. I don't know. I go back between D+ and C-. Sorry. So let me know what you think. Do you love it? Or you agree with me on some of these flaws? So thanks so much. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!